Question in this.
Backed by popular demand, it's the Sherpa Build that I started it probably in 2019. If you're a follower of my channel, you might realize at some point that I take on a lot of projects that don't always get done in a timely fashion. And this Sherpa Build is certainly one to put in that book. I don't got a lot of competition guys around here. I don't really have a lot of rocks that are extremely difficult for competition rigs like this. I'm not gonna go to nationals and compete. And so for me, especially after nationals got canceled this last year, I really didn't have a burning desire to finish this project. Not that I didn't want to, but there's just a lot of other things to do. I wear a lot of hats in the business. And I'll have to do the financing, I have to do the accountancy, I have to do the marketing, I have to do the taxes, I also have to pay everybody, make all the orders for the new products, come up with the new products, don't forget the engineering of the new products, along with a lot of other things that I'm just currently forgetting about. And so the building sometimes will take a back seat. But today I am ready. I'm ready to dive back into this and figure out mostly what else do I need to finish this project. I think I have everything, but how competition builds go, y'all know, sometimes there's just one or two little things that can hold up the entire build. So what was holding up the build was the lack of spur gears, and I also didn't really like this slipper setup. And the reason for that is because there's just a little bit of run out that usually happens when you use this sort of setup, but TGH to the rescue, they come up with this slipper eliminator for their forward motor mount. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna install this on one of these forward motor mounts, doesn't really matter which, put on a spur gear, throw in a motor, and we will at least be on our way to starting this build again. So first thing to do, I'm just gonna use this one because it's already out of the rig. I realized after I bolted everything in that I couldn't get the spur gear on because I already had the forward motor mount on. That's one thing when you're ever doing a custom build. And let me know what you're working on right now. Maybe a certain brand of chassis, or maybe you're just working on your Element Enduro or what have you. There's always going to be an order of operations to assembling them, and every rig is different. For example, this MB scaler back there, if you want to get inside the axles, you got to take everything apart, or you can be slick about it and just take off the outer C-hubs and then kind of slide everything out with the axles like you probably saw me do in the video, and it works just fine that way. And you can kind of get around some of the more annoying traits, let's say, of the build. And on this one, you can't put your forward motor mount on without your spur gear because there's no way to get your spur gear on easily, at least once you already have your servo mounts in there. So, you know. And I can tell that I totally didn't thread lock any of these last time I put it together. Metal on metal though, you should be using thread lock because these will come loose over time. The only other thing that I talk about as much as using Loctite when appropriate is soldering and the skills of soldering. Which, let me know how you're doing on your soldering skills. Have you been practicing? Are you already good at it? Or is it something that you would like to be good at? It seems to be the one subject that comes up a lot. We probably will have 2 new soldering videos released before this video is released because they're already edited and they are uploaded to the YouTubes. Hello, YouTubes. All right, moment of truth. Yeah, look at that. Nice fit. Oh, look at those tolerances. I don't know if you're a tolerance nerd like me. You probably aren't, but those are nice tolerances. I'm always happy to see nice tolerances. All right, so we need to figure out which way the spur gear is going to be flipped because it depends on the length of the motor shaft what is going to work well. So I'll just grab a random motor. Maybe you can see on camera there. The shaft of the motor is about halfway to the spur gear, or halfway through the width of the spur gear. And the pinion can overhang just a little bit, and that is certainly no problem. This is a Kimbrough 60 tooth. Looks to be 32 pitch. This is gonna do it. Okay, so it's exactly the same. We're just gonna have a little bit of pinion overhang for this to reach, and that's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Not ideal, but at the same time, competition rigs are usually the best that you can do for a given situation. There's always going to be some give and take. What I shall do, I'm going to install it the other way. It's going to be a little bit easier for us to get to. Here we go. So the bevel or the countersunk center is pointing towards our transfer case, or forward motor mount, sorry. And just one more time, because I've taken this apart and put it back together enough times, I just want to make sure, yep, that's still good. It still aligns. Blue Loctite. And we just want a little dab on each of these screws. Or big dab, I suppose, will work too. Does anybody eat Wheaties still these days? I mean, since Shaquille O'Neal is no longer on the box, I'm just not into it. I gotta have Shaquille telling me what to do. That's right, that's right. It was Michael Jordan telling us to eat the Wheaties. It's been so long. I mean, come on, Wheaties. I don't even know who it was anymore. It's been that long since I had TV. Okay, so let's be honest. I'm sure there's plenty of Wheaties commercials. You're gonna have to let me know. You, the viewer, are gonna have to let me know. Does Wheaties, do they still advertise? I've got no clue. I've got no clue what traditional media is about these days, because don't have cable. We've got TVs, but the only thing that's on it is Netflix, essentially. And I don't even watch that. I'm disconnected from the world. I evidently don't even know what's going on these days. So who's the spokesperson for Wheaties? You're gonna have to tell me. All right, now the moment of truth. The reason why a lot of people end up using 32 pitch gears is because their pinion mesh is not consistent. And that could either be because you didn't set it right, or we didn't set it right, or it can be because the gear or the gear holder is out of round. It is not concentric with the shaft. So the concentricity of the gear is not good with whatever it's spinning on. And without getting out a dial indicator to see, I'm just gonna use my finger and I'm gonna spin this gear and visually check to see not only how much wobble this gear has back and forth, but to see if it has any out of roundness, any concentricity issues. And there's just a teeny bit of wobble back and forth, but the clearance, it's good, that's on point. Now, the wobble back and forth, I could probably just do one of these numbers and kind of bend it, make sure it's well seated, and it would solve it. But it's really not that bad. I'll also go to tighten down these gears just one more time, just to be sure they're all even. There we go. And one more, we'll check it again. Just, yep, that'll work. That'll work, shouldn't have any problems. What's your favorite scale accessory? I mean, we're talking about building a Sherpa chassis, which is gonna be a Sorka vehicle, and those need scale points. So what are your favorite scale accessories? Thinking back, we had things like the EXO from Axial, which was just a nightmare, an absolute nightmare to work on those things. The bombers, you know, they're not too bad. I've certainly got some tubers, this UC Fab rig, which is, you basically have to drop everything out of it, but fortunately it's just a couple of bolts and the skid plate all falls down. When you're dealing with custom rigs, there's always going to be little issues here and there. But I do want to know, is there a certain rig that has given you fits? Or is there certain rigs that are super easy to work on? What's your favorite rig to work on? Oh yeah, nice and round, nice and round. I love it. I would like to know what you put into your Sorka competition rigs. What is your sort of KV range that you like? Let's see. Oh, 6-pole prototype? No, that's too big and hefty. We don't want all that. Another 6-pole prototype. I have shown this in previous videos. This is the 6-shooter It is the stubby size can, and oh yeah, this is the perfect KV of 2700 for me in these sort of rigs. With all the gear down that we're gonna have, I do find that the 2700 KV range is kind of a sweet spot. You can gear up to get the wheel speed you want, but you don't lose too much low speed control, and you can gear down as much as you would like to get just as much drag brake and low speed performance as we could possibly imagine. Yeah, I think that looks good. We'll put the sensor port and the wires facing up. I do believe that should clear everything. And we do need to be careful when we're putting screws into the motor, because if the screws are too long, they will hit the windings and your motor will be broken. We'll go with 8mm. And most of the time, I would say you probably want to Loctite these in, but I honestly have never had issues with motors coming loose. The way the slots are in this motor mount, you can put screws all over the place, basically. Now I'll just need to figure out what pinion I'm going to use. And that may be the sticking point for today. Do I have my pinions here? This box smells like there's pinions inside, and oh wow, this is an old box of pinions. 84 tooth 48 pitch. This box of pinions is so old, I've got a green Castle Creations pinion in there. Bonus points if you know what motors these were originally used for. Hey, look, here we go. We got a random bag of who knows what pitch most of these are. Got a 8 tooth 32 pitch. That's probably a little small considering the gear down that we're gonna have on the rest of it. Boy, a little blast from the past in here though. So I'm hopeful that I can at least find one pinion. I mean, how about this 33 tooth 48 pitch? Well, that's not gonna work. 7 tooth for a clodbuster. Do you organize your stuff a little better than me? So 12, 13. This is a 13 tooth. Yeah, that mesh is real nice. That'll at least be a start. 13. I'm kind of looking for a 10 tooth. I don't think I'll find it today. I may have to order some more pinions for this project. And of course, the smallest part that it could possibly be to hold up our project. You know, I'll just start with a 13. We'll see how the speed is. I'm gonna have portal axles on this. There's gonna be lots of gear down. I can also do underdrive, of course. So yeah, we'll just start with that right there. Is there still a grub screw in it? There's a grub screw. That is a win for me. At least today, we will have our motor installed on our forward motor mount. That's the fun of custom rigs. And when you get it done, it's gonna be your own personal, exactly like you want it and nobody else has. That's the best part. All right, so that 13 slid right on, more or less. It's a little tight. We'll just start here. We'll start here, see what kind of wheel speed that this rig has. Do you use the paper method for pinion mesh? Or you just eyeball it like I do? I tend to just eyeball it. Make sure that there's a little bit of play in all positions, because there will be some concentricity issues. Just a little bit. There's always going to be a little bit. Yeah, you can probably hear that. Just a little too much. So I'm going to have to go on a search. I'll have to steal some pinions back from the shop because they use it to test vehicles all the time. And in the meantime, I'm just going to keep playing with this. I do think that's a good stopping point. You can see how, you know, these custom builds don't always go straight forwards. That's one reason why I have not picked this one back up for almost a year, maybe more than a year. Let me know in the comments how long it's been and how increasingly frustrated you have been with me not building this Sherpa. It's fine. It's just toys, right? So, as always, I do thank you for tuning in and have a good day.